So I'm resending it now.
Hang tight, everybody. Send.
Should be going. Yeah, I see you got up there now. I see that going.
My chat, right?
Yeah, I saw your chat, which is perfect.
Okay.
Okay, now it's going. Now we're back up. Okay, now we got some. Don't know what's going on with that stuff today, but every now and then it gets a little weird, man. There you go. So we are back in motion. If you guys can see us out there, we sure do appreciate you taking the time with the weirdness and the transactions, what's going on with the technical difficulties. There's always something out there, right? So, hello again. Welcome to Beautiful Now Live. This is a segment where we interview great special guests that are talking about topical things that can actually help you stay relevant and keep you uplifted, encouraged, and inspired. So, thanks for stopping by. It's a lunchtime chat, so pull up a chair. We'll try to keep it 30 minutes or less. We want to make sure you leave here feeling better about what's going on in the world around you. Now, today I've got a great special guest who is actually in the educational field. Been around, I know this guy for a little while, and he's been talking about how education has moved from the classroom to online and what that looks like, being very innovative in that space. He currently works for a school called Princeton Charter School. He's been there for a couple of years. I'll have him talk to you about that. And he also has a brand new mission that he's built an online program called KMAT, KMATS, which we'll talk about that as well, giving you some instruction there. And his mission, as you can see, is to educate and empower you, kind of what we do here at the Beautiful Now podcast. Also, he talks about math, which is one of those hard subjects that I personally have the hardest time with. So math is a hard one for us, and he'll be able to talk to you about how you can get your students to learn more about that. This gentleman's name, of course, Kevin Allen. Kevin, are you there, brother?
I'm here, sir. Happy to be here. Really excited for this opportunity today.
Man, glad to have you here. Glad to have you be a part of the Beautiful Now family. So excited to hear what you had to share with the people out there. What's been going on, brother? How you facing this whole COVID thing right now?
Yeah, it's the transition for my wife and I hasn't been that bad. Both of us kind of transitioned pretty quickly into kind of this norm. Got two different workspaces set up in the stay connected as best with each other, of course, but also with friends and things like that. And pretty awesome that technology, just like this here, is allowing us to do just that.
Gotcha, man. Well, man, as an educator, give me a little background about how long you've been an educator and how long that started for you.
Yeah, so officially, so I started teaching at Princeton Charter School, which was my first position, first teaching job. I started that last year, so less than a year ago. I've been teaching now full time, September of 2019. And prior to that, I've had several years in engineering. I spent 12 years right out of college working in different engineering type positions over at Verizon. But ultimately, several years ago is when I started having some of these thoughts about really wanting to do something more fulfilling. And a lot of things kind of happen in that time frame. But ultimately, I put myself in every position possible just to see if this is the path that I see myself taking, if this is indeed the path that I should be taking. And I'll kind of go into some details a little further on. But ultimately, myself out there, accepting this position, and just being so excited about every notion of teaching. I'm really, really loving it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. What made you choose math as your field of choice of all the ones? Like, we normally hate math, right?
Yeah. Math. As long as I can remember, man, math is it for me. And I'm gonna put. I'm gonna share this with you real quick because this happened this morning. My wife was putting she gonna laugh at this when she sees it. She was putting some information in an app on her phone, like a fitness app, and I guess it was an overseas app. And so for some reason, it didn't have your height in feet and inches. It had your height only in inches or centimeters, which is very odd to begin with. But she had to be able to figure her height out in inches, right? If she's 5'3", she has to figure out, what she is in inches. And I'm kind of I love those opportunities when that happens, or if we're hanging a picture up on the wall or something. I'm like, babe, we're gonna put this right in the middle. This is 57 inches.
Oh, you're that dude? I already don't like you.
Yeah,
Don't be telling me about
yeah.
your precise
I,
numbers, man. Go and somewhere all that.
I feel bad about saying it, but I'm just like it was just a funny thing. I kind of gave her a little hard time with it, but ultimately to answer your question, yeah, I've been into math for as long as I can remember. I know specifically, however, in sixth grade, we moved to New Jersey from New York, and I was in like the regular math class, right? Over the summer, something happened where when seventh grade started, I moved up to the accelerated math class. I must have done well on a placement test or something along those lines. And I just remember from that point forward is when I really started just kind of coming into my own in that subject. So it's been an interesting road, but I would say it kind of started, if I had to call a time at that time frame.
Wow, wow. So, and your wife, she lets you correct her all the time on these numbers, right? I know she's looking at you like, "Don't correct me. I will get this picture hung up there my way." But
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna go ahead and agree with you. Like I said, I really felt bad about. I said I'm digging myself a deep hole. I'm
yeah,
getting
man,
dressed.
you need to leave that quite alone right there. It's okay.
Exactly. Who would have thought that that was the first thing that I talk about on this episode?
Oh my goodness. So you take this teaching passion over. It's been very recent for you because you've always been wanted to teach or wanted to educate, but you really dove into it just as of late, correct?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So I had a unique opportunity at Verizon to accept a voluntary severance package that was offered to a lot of employees, and I think they were kind of looking to sort of incentivize like the people who were nearing retirement. But what ended up happening is a lot of people my age who were kind of in the heart of in the prime of their career, they decided to take that opportunity and either work somewhere else or do something totally different. And that's exactly what happened with me, man. The day I walked in and I found out about this package is the time frame where I knew that I mentioned earlier, I kind of introduced myself to Big Brothers Big Sisters mentor program. I've done a few things at my high school, tutoring and things like that. At this point, I knew that I wanted to get into education, but I was waiting for that right opportunity. So when this news came, I put my name in the hat, and this was 2 years ago when that happened. I left the company not having anything, no teaching experience, like concrete, no subbing, no nothing like that. And I just knew, and some people are like, man, wasn't that risky? I just knew, Derek. I knew that, and it's not cockiness, it was confidence and just kind of, I was sure that this was the space that I wanted to get myself into. And looking back, nothing has kind of changed that view at all so far.
Well, I would echo that to say that God gives each of us gifts. He gives each of us a lane that we're wired to operate in. A lot of times we don't know that lane until we get further into life and we start figuring out, oh, I should have this, should have done that. And for you to have the courage to step out and say, well, I feel I'm driven to do this. I feel like I'm wired to do that. That takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of strength. I respect that quite a bit. And a lot of people we talk about now, hopefully this will encourage them to do the same because you stepped out into an area where you were not familiar, but you felt like you were called to do it. And now there's been doors opening in that space. In other words, you started at Prince Charter. And how did all that working together shape your perception of teaching?
Yeah, yeah. So with this being the first position, first sort of full-time official teaching position, there was a lot for me that I was just excited about and very curious about. How is this going to be? Is this going to be something that's what I kind of dreamed and thought that it would be like, or is this going to be a total different thing? Because I have a lot of people in my circle, friends and family who are in education, and I've heard. I mean, we may know, right? Like I hear a lot of stories from different people about their teaching experience, and when I share with several people, like, hey, I'm looking to leave this, stable, good paying, flexible job at Verizon. I want to become a teacher. When I say that to current teachers, like there was almost like a you better not do that type of a mentality without actually
Wow.
going out and saying. And that never changed anything with me because I knew what I was not just what I was called to do, but what I knew that I was passionate about. So about the Princeton charter position, that opportunity kind of came up when I left Verizon and I had 8 months or so or 6 months of severance where I said, all right, I need to give myself even more opportunities to get some experience with teaching. So I went ahead and just took my phone and just made a few phone calls to the schools that are locally in the area that I live in, Central Jersey, and said, hey, I'm Kevin, introduced myself, and I'm looking to substitute teach. I want to get some experience. Just very direct, very straightforward, very casual. And one of the first schools I called, they were ready to have someone come in like that week to interview. They were looking for subs. It was Rutgers Prep, actually, right down the road. And that was my first sort of step into it. And when I tell you that, like, waking up, obviously, first morning, a little nervous, a little uncertain, are the kids going to like me? Are they going to, are they going to, like call themselves different names and do all the things that you see on TV and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I went in there, man, and just really just was myself. I was just myself. I knew that I belonged there. I knew I wanted to be there. And I think that mentality, being yourself and being someone who, and again, I'm not one to talk highly about myself, but if you're someone who's likable and you know that you're likable from just your interactions with other people, if you're pleasant to be around, all those types of things, then being a teacher um, is such a rewarding job because your students pick up on that immediately. They know that you care about them and they know that you're a good person. That's why and we're going to get into it. I'm missing, yeah, I mentioned to my students just, I'm missing the students. I'm missing that face to face. And I'm so looking forward to getting back to, that's one of my main things, which is
Wow.
weird. Just, I want to go back to work, but
Well,
it's a
that's a
blessing.
good thing, man. That means you love what you do. You're passionate about it.
That's
With
right.
COVID-19 though disrupting the entire school year now, most of our kids are now trying to figure out how to learn from home. So it's really changed how learning is happening for almost every child. How has the school classroom adapted as far as what you see, taking it online?
Yeah, so what I've seen so far, we had such a unique kind of experience with this whole thing. My sort of, or our situation in our school kind of went like this. Like, we were anticipating that this might happen, that we might be out of school for 2 weeks. I remember that was like the time frame at the time. We were all talking, we might be out for 2 weeks. Let's have some stuff kind of laid out so that we can kind of continue the education and everything like that. So what we ended up doing was like having and I don't remember the exact date, but having a date on the calendar, all faculty meeting, where we're just going to kind of share best practices. And this is when we're, of course, still in school before everything kind of happened the way that it did. And we were never able to have that meeting because that was the week when we started closing the schools. So we had to kind of adjust on the fly, even though we were aware of this. We had to adjust on the fly, and people like myself and other folks in the school who are tech savvy, who have some experience, using their iPad, using technology, using Zoom, were able to kind of just help others and lift others up and share best practices and stuff like that. And that's kind of how it all started. And in terms of like how I'm seeing with my students and everything right now, I think it's a couple different things at play here. One is it's so important for teachers to understand that students, everyone is going through different things with this, state of quarantine, with this pandemic going on. There's vastly different sort of emotional sort of mindsets that are going on based off of what your personal situation is. So when a student is slacking, or not even slacking off, but appears to be slacking off by the in that sense of the word, or anything like that, we have to, as teachers, I believe, be really, really understanding that our goal in this space right now is just to do what we can to make sure that we're still educating our students to the best of our ability, and that we're allowing for some sense of stability for them in this crazy, unbelievable, unstable time that we're in. And that's kind of what I keep reiterating with my students. Not just having each day be the same thing, each session, each class be the same 30 minutes to an hour, just straight up me talking and that type of thing. But what about a game that we can play? Or what about something different? What about just a 5 minute sort of touch point to say, hey guys, like I did the other day, hey class, how are we doing today? How's everyone feeling? Just unmute everyone and just kind of allow for that. That's something that you kind of get a lot out of the students in those particular times.
So do you feel like in this day and age, when we can't be with them in person, which is not possible right now, do you feel like the kids are taking in just as much online as they are when they were in class, or is it a difficult way to engage them to make sure they stay with you?
Oh, it's very difficult. It's definitely difficult. It's like I think we're doing the best that we can under the circumstances. But as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to that face-to-face contact and me standing in front of the class, the body language, the moving around, the walking around, and interacting with the students, all those types of things. Not only do I enjoy and cherish in the classroom, but I know that my students really, really, enjoyed that and missed that for sure. And So it's challenging. We're doing the best we can, and we're focusing in on the fact that we still have an opportunity here and a responsibility to make sure that we're doing what we can to make sure that our students are still learning to the best of their ability in this sort of uncertain time.
Are they still having to turn in like homework, or like do you have like class time when you're teaching and they're just sitting at their desk but they're on screen? Like how like in a regular classroom you'd be sitting in front of the class, they'd be at their
Mhm.
desk and you'd be working. But now you're in a virtual classroom, so are you basically quote unquote standing at the front of the of the class, so to speak, and they're still there, or do they sign on and off?
Yeah, so the way it works in our school at least is, yeah, they would sign in when their class time is, and we have classes 3 days a week in my particular school. We're doing 3 days a week, and then 2 days are kind of like whether they're video lessons or anything like that, or just extra work for them to do on those other days. But essentially, it's as close to the layout in our face to face classes we can possibly get. So students are still expected to show up in class, those 3 days during their time slot. When it comes to homework and it comes to certain things like that, we kind of experimented a little bit and said, okay, for homework, are we going to spend the same amount of time going over homework that we would in class? And what kind of happened very, very quickly is that we would end up spending an enormous amount of time going over homework, because you may have a couple students who maybe need the extra help and things like that. So we would spend a lot of time on that and not even be able to get to the lessons. So what we did ultimately to kind of shift that a little bit was we have other time slots that are open as a voluntary base for optional, let's call it optional, for students to come into for office hours. So for those students who feel like we're maybe moving a little bit too fast because we still do want to get through the curriculum, we have an opportunity for those to hop in for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes and ask questions, and that's been proving to be very effective for us so far.
Great, great. I mean, I just, and I'm asking you just to share these things because I know there are a lot of parents out there that are wondering how is this new online program going to work for my student? How is he going to grasp and hold on to the information that he's learning?
Yeah.
With so many changes now, you created your own online teaching program as well. Tell me a little bit about KMAT, KMATS. Tell me a little bit about that.
Mhm. Absolutely, yeah. Kevin's Mentor and Tutor Services is a program that I started, a company I started rather, that's focused on helping students do one-on-one personalized math tutoring. Is kind of how it started. So we started one-on-one math tutoring um, in person. Those three sort of criteria, and I was spending an hour one-on-one with students and really having a great time myself. I always look forward to the sessions. The students always were. It was such a nice thing. The fact that parents would express to me that the students, after a long day at school, they're still looking forward to come to these sessions because there's something else, something different about the way that they're able to learn at their pace one on one. So that's kind of how everything started. It's been around for about a year and a half now. But where it's kind of segueing into now, and I'm just so excited for an opportunity to share with you and with your audience, is I had a call to action to to use that platform, use my customer base, and use my knowledge and from teaching math as well as technology to do something to really really help and be a blessing for others across the world is where I'm looking to market this. And to that point, my two sort of main pillars in life are math and music. And so what I thought, once my teaching, my professional teaching was good to go, once I knew my wife was okay, I was okay, my family was okay, and I had a chance to think about what I wanted to do to be a blessing. I said, all right, I want to do something. I want to do a free math tutoring and free music piano lessons for anyone until June 30th. And that's exactly what I did. Created the flyer for it, put it on the website, promoted it, and we actually just had our first session yesterday, still open for anyone across the world who wants to join in. And we're doing it kind of grade based. In some cases, we're doing just one grade for the hour on Zoom. In some cases, we're grouping two different grades together, kind of filling it out a little bit to see what makes the most sense. And it went so well yesterday. One of my big moments yesterday was we're using the free Zoom 40-minute platform, right? So I told the parents, I said, I'm working with Zoom to see if there's an opportunity to partner with them to get like the full hour for their premium service. And yesterday, after like 35 minutes were up, the one girl was sitting with her mom. Her mom wanted to kind of watch the session. And so I got a notification, hey, Zoom is going to give you a free, as your first thing, a free offering, blah, 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 for a full hour. And I'm like, oh, perfect. I was like, all right, so I can go for a full hour if you guys can. And the one girl looks at her mom, she, oh, mom, can I stay for the full hour? And I just had the biggest smile on my face. I'm like, that is exactly what I'm talking about. I do not want students like feeling like they have to come to this. I want them coming to it, learning, and not even realizing that they're coming to something where they're learning because they're still enjoying themselves.
I
That's
love
that's
the
my main
fact
mission.
that you offer it for free. I know eventually there'll have to be some type of paid service, and you do have paid mentoring services. And I know that you and I have talked multiple times about the difference between a classroom setting and a one on one setting when you're tutoring or mentoring someone. But at least to be able to offer that kind of service for free, such a blessing to so many people. And it gives people something to look forward to and a new way of looking at learning. So when they go to your website, or it's kevintutoring.com, is that how you pronounce it? What is it? What's the
That's
website?
correct. Yeah, www.kevintutoring.com. Yep.
Go to that today. Check that out. All the information we're talking about here is listed there. It's just a great way to begin to learn more about online education, whether it be via math, whether it be via music. These are things that a lot of us are interested in. And our students, our young people, need a place to go to stay put and to learn something that's interesting to them. So, something that's engaging to them, not just here, sit me in front of a TV and go. Here's something they can really learn and take with them with skills they'll use for a long, long time. So thankful that you started KMATs up. I've looked into it multiple times and thinking I need to take a math class because I'm terrible at math. But also the one-on-one mentoring. Talk a little bit about that, what that means to you there.
Yeah. Mentoring, man, it's such a powerful and such an important thing. I can talk about this for. I know we're nearing our 30 minutes. I could talk about this forever, for a long time. Mentoring for me professionally and my career at Verizon is kind of that's kind of the first time where I realized the importance of having people that have your best interest at heart, that are willing to go to bat for you, willing to teach you things, willing to look after you and things like that. And one of my sort of biggest moments is I mentioned about voluntarily accepting a severance package. The year prior to that, I had gotten involuntarily laid off at Verizon. So by all shapes and by all, I don't know the phrase, but basically I was expecting to not be at Verizon anymore, right? I was like, by the end of the year, there's like a less than 1% chance that you're going to be able to find another position and your position's cut. And that's kind of where it stood. But I ended up going to this networking event, man, and a Verizon networking event that happened to be the same exact day that I got the involuntarily the news about being involuntarily laid off, and I met some amazing people there. I met some amazing people who I still am in contact with today, and these are people who I consider mentors, who are all happen to be all African American men who are high ups in the company and who really, really, one of which helped me opened a new position up for me in the company, which is unheard of in this time where there's a hiring freeze going on. And that allowed me to stay there for one more year before making the transition to education. So it's so important to me. And because I know, because I know how important it is to have mentors, I know that it's important for me to be that same blessing to other people. And I also know this was sort of one takeaway for anyone out there who either strives to be a mentor or considers himself one. A big takeaway for me was sometimes I would think to myself, like, I don't want to reach out to so and so. I know it's been 3 months or 2 months, but I don't want to reach out because he's a high up in this company. And I feel like I'm going to be a burden if I reach out to him because I'm just going to bother him with a question or anything like that. And when I've mentioned that to them, like during my sort of time when I was like last week in the company, it really, really resonated with me when they all said back to me, like, this this interaction with you, Kevin, is what drives me, not all the other things that are going on in the company. This is what's important to me. So when it comes to me being that blessing on to other people, I'm kind of reminded about when people reach out to me, when my students reach out, or like some of the professional development things I've done at Rutgers, when they reach out to me because they saw something in this workshop that I did, and they just feel like I can be a help to them and assistance and things like that. I really, really, really am driven by those types of interactions. So that's what I like to kind of tie into my tutoring as well.
I love that, man. I love the fact that we need to make sure that our kids are mentored. You know, they're growing up in a world where things are constantly changing, and if they're trying to figure out who they want to be, it's nice to have that person to be able to have that one-on-one chat to encourage them, to inspire them, and to teach them about things that are vital and relevant, like math, like music. So you being that one-on-one mentor, again, just a definite need in the world. And I hope that you guys that are watching the program can take a look at kevintutoring.com and see what other processes and things that he offers. So if you have someone in the home, a young teenager or a young person that needs a little bit of help and maybe you can't give them right now, here's a great way to start that, a new way to look at that things for those people. Um, last questions we can get that going for you. 'Cause I know we're at our 30-minute marker. What would you say to the parents that are on the fence about whether their child needs one-on-one mentoring or needs to have a tutor on something, or just let them figure it out? They'll be okay. What would you say to that parent?
Yeah, so I have a unique view on this very topic. Being someone who does the one-on-one tutoring, and now being someone who doesn't have an enormous amount of experience teaching, but has, I think, enough experience teaching to kind of get a feel for the benefits and the real need for that one-on-one space, is that teachers are under a tremendous amount of pressure to get through curriculum, right? So you have 30 students or 20 students, however many in your class. You have to get through a certain amount of curriculum before the end of the year. And in a lot of schools across the country, there are pretty vast separations in terms of sort of understanding on core concepts of what you're teaching in that particular class. So I've experienced that already myself. So what happens is, as a tutor, I want, anytime one student maybe raises their hand and says, Mr. Allen, can you go over this a little bit more? And that this is something that should have been taught the year before, that they may be the only one who's struggling understanding it. It kind of breaks my heart. I want to help them, but at the same time, we have to get through the rest of the material for the rest of the class. So that became a little bit challenging for me. I think that because all students learn uniquely and differently, and because they learn at different sort of paces and everything, there are opportunities to go on YouTube and use Khan Academy and these types of things, which are incredibly useful as well. But one of the things with math that's very important to have that one-on-one connection is, when whether you're in school or whether you're watching like a video lesson of a topic that's going slower, so hopefully you can understand it more. What happens when there is a question, or what happens when a step is done in that problem that is not explained in a way that the student is going to be able to understand correctly? If they're not able to ask that question, they're going to get sort of demoralized and kind of brought down a little bit, because they won't know how to go from point C to point D, and therefore they can't see anything past that point. So I would say, I mean, basically, that it's very, very important, I think, to have that one-on-one tutoring. And obviously, there's a monetary type of a thing that's associated with that's going to be something worth, considering and looking into. But I hope that anyone watching this, who has children, and forget about the money for a second. We have 2 months of free tutoring, no questions asked, no nothing. Like, that's not what my business model is all about. My business model right now is being a blessing and being able to help people. We'll cross that path, and on July 1, when I want to look into figuring out how to kind of bring this to the masses and kind of monetize it and things like that. But for now, I want everyone out there to reach out to someone. If you have a friend or family or anyone, let them know about this and have them join up. We had such a blast yesterday. I'm looking forward to the next one today. And yeah, that's what I would kind of say about that.
Well, as usual, man, I'm so thankful that you stopped by to talk to us here at Beautiful Now Live. It's been a great session, just kind of learning about what the online classroom looks like, how students are taught there, how they're being explained and engaged. I know a lot of people just don't know where this has been going, so it's nice to have a teacher that's actually in the trenches talking about what's happening at school and talking about a separate kind of program that can actually engage them one on one. So that's always important to be able to have those things there. Again, man, if anybody has questions about Kevin's tutoring sessions, it's kevintutoring.com. It's KMATS, KMATS. I think you'll enjoy a lot of the things that you see there. There's actual videos as well. He has a YouTube channel. So take a look at those things, sign those resources. I think they will help you make some decisions of how and when your student may need mentoring or one on one training on either math or whatever subject it may be. We thank you for being a part of Beautiful Now Live family. As usual, we try to keep it at 30 minutes. We're a little over today. But if you enjoyed this content, please put a share or a like, and most importantly, subscribe. Because when you subscribe, we send you the actual notifications that let you know when our content new is coming for you. So you'll be able to see that thing and be made aware when new content is available for you. Lastly, of course, be careful out there. Wash your hands. Take care of yourself. And we'll see you again next time at the Beautiful Now Live podcast. Have a great one, guys. Take care from Beautiful Now Studios. Bye-bye now, guys.